Hi, everyone. I'm going to try to stick with my 10-minute limit, and I'm going to talk to you about strengthening the spine, integrating advising, mentoring, professional practices, and critique into the open curriculum at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. So for those of you who may not know our curriculum, we talk a lot about interdisciplinarity at SAIC, and none of us agree on what it is. We have an undergraduate program where we have no majors. We have a 132 credit BFA. It's an open curriculum. We have distribution requirements, but not a lot of requirements after the first year. We have a pass-fail grading system, so no GPA or anything like that. And we also have a 6-credit off-campus study requirement to promote our students' knowledge in sort of global affairs, diversity, and whatnot. As an institution, our goal is to produce creative practitioners, scholars, artists, designers, all of whom have come about developing their practices without a prescribed course, without a prescription or a list of courses they have to take.
Interdisciplinarity at SAIC is integral to the curriculum for both undergraduates and graduate students. It allows for all the students to really have a wide-ranging view of how their art practice might be in the future, by working across disciplines themselves and learning different skills, and also by collaborating with people in other departments.
We want to be conscious of every exploration that we do. What are the power issues? How is it situated? In what culture is it situated? At what intersections? How is it mobile between different positions? If you get too restricted by disciplinary arguments, you sometimes might, in more traditional academic sites, forget to ask those questions. And those are so urgent for the formation of knowledge, for the creation of art, for writing, for these cultural productions that we're all involved in.
Interdisciplinarity for me means a kind of acceptance of different métiers and collaborating across disciplines, that I can work with, that I have a language to work with filmmakers, to work with visual artists of any ilk, that we have an art language and an interdisciplinary understanding of processes, and we can work together to make a total project.
So I wanted you to hear from some of my colleagues. I always feel awkward at these conferences because I feel like I'm representing a whole constituency of faculty who have really thought carefully about these issues. So one thing that's really perplexing us now is this question of how do we educate our students to value conceptual focus and diverse perspectives across all media in an open curriculum. Although it's very, very challenging, I think our open curriculum actually encourages some of those skills that have already been talked about in today's panel, this notion of intellectual agility, this notion of the self-reflective capacity to take risks and to define one's own path. And one of the things that I've been tasked with, I know all of us are dealing with these charges from our external agencies on assessment. I've spent the better part of the last year really negotiating on what our program level learning goals are for our BFA program. And the presentation is not really about that, but I feel like so much of what we're doing curricularly at SAIC are starting to be driven by these goals, which is actually what they're supposed to be and we are thinking through how we can responsibly add structure to our open curriculum without stifling it. And so one of the things that I've been pushing for the last 3 years is the implementation of something that I call our curricular spine. And so what is this? I love the anatomical imagery because the spine is kind of a vertical support, and currently all of our requirements are lodged in our first year curriculum. So what we're doing is we are really implementing a very clear touch point once in each of the 4 years as students negotiate and go through this curriculum. Students start with a research-based class called Research Studio. In the second year, they take a class I'm going to talk about a little more called Sophomore Seminar. In the third year, they take a Junior Professional Practice Experience course. And finally, they finish with the Senior Capstone. So starting in the fall of 2015, all entering students are going to ask to take these new requirements. And as you probably know, students really don't like the word requirements. So I have to make it sound as fun as possible. So they're going to be taking these courses that I just mentioned, and I want to use the rest of my time, I think I have about 5 more minutes, really to kind of give you a case study of what I've learned in developing this second year course. And I think that it really has given me a lot to think about with regard to how and why we integrate all of these things into all 4 of these courses across the 4 years. So one of the course goals for Sophomore Seminar is to provide intensive faculty mentoring for students to find their own creative focus and develop a unique pathway through our open curriculum. So the course integrates mentoring, critique, writing, and evaluation. This notion of self-reflective, particularly writing, is key to the course. The structure is different from a typical studio course. It's a 3-hour seminar. It's not a making course, but there's an additional hour for faculty advising. Faculty meet with students individually or in small groups at least 3 times per term. And faculty, unlike our academic advisors, share their perspective or their knowledge of SAIC degree requirements and also the departmental offerings. Next week, I'm getting ready to host my annual pizza party. We do a lot of sort of communication about this class, and we try to get students to think very responsibly about how to pick one of 40 faculty members who are teaching this course. We have a big info session in the ballroom where faculty get up and talk about their perspective on mentoring. And there's an info session, sort of a dinner afterwards, where students can circulate and meet individual faculty. If there's time at the end, I really want to show you this website that I've developed where we actually share syllabi for the course well in advance, so students can, again, pick responsibly. Do they want a course that emphasizes professional practice and grant writing, or do they want a course that's more theory-heavy? They are both kinds, fulfill the requirement. So I'll hit that if I have time at the end. I want to show you one of the things that I find very interesting about courses like this is students, undergraduates in particular, come to me and they'll say, but I want to take a course where I learn a skill. I want to learn Rhino. And I agree with them as an art and technology professor. Yes, you absolutely need skills, but I find in the skill-based courses, the skills are often so difficult. The learning curve for Rhino is through the roof. Students need all the time in that class to learn the skill. So where do they actually learn to talk about the work? We've heard so much in this conference already how key communication is to an art and design practice today. So here are just a couple of student testimonials. I recognize that Sophomore Seminar has been instrumental in leading me to think about my goals objectively, and not just those concerning my art practice. The variety of work shown in this class was really helpful and inspiring to see. Even though the class was technically in the film video department, other mediums like print work, photography, animation, and drawings were shown as well. Finally, despite a somewhat rocky start on my part, I feel like the class grew to have a sense of community, one that grew from being comfortable discussing each other's art openly and honestly, and being truly interested in each other's craft and practice. So a couple of other things. I'm going to actually skip this one in the interest of time. Because we don't have grades, I initiated something 3 years ago called the Dean's List for Outstanding Sophomores. It's a system where every now and then we have the wonderful gift of being able to award scholarship money to a rising junior. And because of our open curriculum, we never have a real great sense at the sophomore level who's excelling. So this Dean's List has really been great. Each faculty member recommends one student for their section. This is Elijah Berger on the right, and he is nominating his student Leandria Mitchell, and says she's a dedicated young artist pursuing her cross-media ideas and material interests with enthusiasm and genuine curiosity. And LaAndrea says about the class, the most noteworthy portion of Sophomore Seminar for me was how the assignments were centered around self-reflection. I think I learned that as a person, I think like a painter, but my actual work manifests itself through means of collage. My thought process always goes back to composition and how the eye might move about something. That realization is probably one of the most important I've had in my time at SAIC. It means I know how I come to making what I make in a physical sense and a conceptual one. So I only have about 30 seconds left, but we invite these students back as juniors to be peer mentors in the class. The peer mentor testimonials are pretty compelling as well. And I want to finish up by just asking those of you who might be looking for a lunch conversation, how can what we are learning about the spine at SAIC be shared, sorry about the typo, in the AICAD community? Really interested in notions of shared syllabi across schools, really interested in how mentoring happens at other schools. So please join me. I think I'm in room 304. Thank you very much for your attention.